All right, so this is my take two. I messed the first one up. So I'm gonna do my life story now. I'm excited. I want to make one thing clear before I do begin. They brought it up that I don't want anybody to give me. I don't want sympathy. I don't want attention. I don't want you know anyone to say, "Oh my God, you had it so bad. I feel bad for you." That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone to benefit from my story, for them to learn from what I've been through, and use my experiences to either avoid that in their future or to deal with it now. So I'll pretty much just start off in the beginning. I was raised with three older siblings. I'm the baby of the bunch. Then the age gap is pretty big for me to the next child. My brother Mike is 31 years old. He's 10 years older than me. So when I went to school, it was always very hard because I never associated with younger kids. It's a very small town, so everybody knew everybody. I mean, everybody knows how that is. And when it came down to it, my family's name wasn't good. You know what I mean? I was looked down upon because my siblings were my siblings and my family was my family. Um, so all the kids that their families knew the teachers and they all knew each other from their childhood. They were all friends and clicked up, but myself, I didn't have anybody, so I always made myself fit in with my brother's friends. Keep in mind at the time, so they're 10 years older than me. I was like 6 years old, they're all 16, you know what I mean, so on and so forth. And at first, I always looked up to those guys. You know what I mean. I would always want to hang out with them. Always want to be around them. I was never allowed in the back because I was young, but they would always stop by on their way out and talk to me. And they were the only people who actually like noticed me. It felt like, and so I kind of formed a connection with all of them. Um, you know, I uh, I was like 6 years old, and something happened. I think someone drank too much, and they didn't want to go home, so their mom would find out. When they didn't go home or call because they passed out drunk in the back, their mom called the cops, and I woke up on the couch with like two police departments in the house, full search in the house, and they took everybody out in cuffs, and it messed with me. And as soon as that happened, I went and moved with my aunt. It's actually my great aunt, my mom's aunt. Um, so pretty much from the ages 6 till what I mean, like 19, 20, and I mean, I lived with her not long ago this year. She was the one who took care of me. I considered her mom. You know what I mean? I lived with her on and off. I always was very defiant. I didn't want any discipline. I didn't want to listen to anybody. You know what I mean? My father was never around, so there wasn't really that male authoritarian figure that I needed. Um, and when it came down to it, I would just resist everything. So skip ahead a little bit. I was around like 11 or 12. I don't remember. I was in like fifth or sixth grade, I think. And my sister got caught with a very, very substantial amount of black tar heroin and was on the front page of the newspaper. You know what I mean? I said it's a small town, so that means, you know what I mean? Pretty much, it might as well have been my face plastered on the cover as far as school went. I cried for like a week because I couldn't go to school. Everybody was just making fun of me. Even when I went into class, I had teachers making comments or asking about my sister, and it sucked because you know what I mean. You're a young kid. You're like 10, 11, 12. You know what I mean. You just like my sister was at that age. She was the one who would talk to me. Um, my brother Michael, the 31-year-old, he would never hang out with me because I was the youngest. You know what I mean? I was a baby, and my oldest brother was always working or doing anything. So my sister was always around, and when she went away, it really messed with me. Um, I'd been aware of some of the things she did, but I obviously never knew. So I was exposed to that at a real young age. I always told myself I'm never gonna do drugs, never gonna do drugs, not even smoking pot, none of that. Well, I turned 12. I was in seventh grade. I went downtown. There was this place called Common Ground where all the kids went and hung out, but it was just a place to get in trouble and cause a ruckus. Um, it was a church-owned place, but they didn't really have much reign over it. It was really the youth running it. So I went down there one night, and my aunt knew what it was. She knew the deal. The Common Ground was a bad place, but I finessed her. I told her to let me go, and I went to Common Ground. I looked for this guy I knew. I went over. I said, "Yo, let me get some weed." You know what I mean? And I grabbed like a dime bag of weed. The piece was like this big, and thought I was the coolest dude ever. I was excited. I went home and I rolled it. I just smoked it. I threw the whole piece in a paper, rolled it, and smoked it. Um, and then I thought I was Mr. Cool. I had like a sleepover that night, and I had one of my friends over, and I like smoked it with him, and we thought we were the coolest kids. Well, long story short, I ended up grabbing another bag of bud, and I had taken it to school because after school I was going to my friend's house and we were gonna smoke. Well, it ended up being that one of the kids that knew I had it told on me for whatever reason. I don't even know why. And I always bring it up to her and everybody how funny it is because the person that sold me the weed was his older brother. So, I mean, obviously, I didn't tell her anything like that, but it's just like it's funny that he's telling on somebody that's making like your brother's making money off of. You know what I mean? But so I got kicked out in seventh grade. They suspended me, and the principal was like, we're gonna help you out here. We're gonna make sure you don't get kicked out. I went to my expulsion hearing, and they kicked me right out. And that's kind of the beginning of all my problems. That's where everything really, really went downhill. I was never the biggest fan of school, and then once I left my school district, it's Northeast High School. Once I left Northeast, it was over with. You know what I mean? I had already lost interest before then, but once they kicked me out, that was pretty much like it was like being a 12, 13-year old that dropped out without having dropped out. You know what I mean? They put me on cyber school. All you had to do is log on, and they considered you on. You know what I mean? But so I would just log on every day and not do anything. And you know what I mean? Eventually, I got kicked out of there for not doing work. And I went school to school until eventually in eighth grade, I went to a Catholic school. My cousins had went there. That's been the school that they had went to their whole life. It's called St. Greg's. It's a nice little Catholic school and church. My aunt Patty, rest her soul, she was she ran that school. She made it what it was, and so it was kind of easy for me to get in there. So I did my eighth grade year. I actually did quite well. I excelled. And the thing about St. Greg's is you can only go until eighth grade, so it's not like I could have stayed there longer. So after eighth grade, I didn't know what I was gonna do. But to kind of backtrack a bit, I'd always made friends with people, whoever would accept me. I didn't care, you know what I mean? I just wanted to be comfortable around people and have people accept me. Um, when I was between schools, before I started eighth grade, when I got kicked out, there was this kid that I had known a long time. When he was younger, he used to always wear those knee socks and white knee high socks with some Dickie cargo shorts on and a polo. Everybody used to clown him all the time, and I used to always, I'd have his back. Um, well, we ended up being friends. It came down to it one night after, like 5, 6 years of friendship. We ended up doing something dumb. We went and we were gonna go rob somebody, but it was right next to the police station. I was a kid and he was a kid, and the first thing that popped into mind was that let's have a distraction. You know what I mean? If they're over there, they're not gonna be over here when we're doing this. We ended up starting a fire and ended up burning the whole building down. It destroyed the whole building. It was a big part of the community too. So I was already frowned upon in the community. Nobody really liked me. But when that happened, and they found out it was me, it was over as far as reputation went. Not that it ever mattered, but if I were to want to raise my kids in that town, you know what I mean, it would have been ruined. So I burnt the thrift store down. That's what it was, a thrift store. I'm gonna come right out with it. I'm a dick, I know. But we We ran. We got away with it for like 2 years, and then my co-defendant started talking. You know what I mean? He had like a girlfriend or something, and he thought he was the coolest dude because he did it, and it ended up coming down to he told one of my ex-girlfriends that he was trying to talk to. He was trying to act cool, and she was mad at me because we had just broke up, and so she called the police and turned us in. Um, so the next day I skipped school. I left in second period. We had to walk from the high school to the middle school. I ran. I left. I grabbed my cigarettes and everything and just dipped. And I went and smoked all day. I went home and I went over to my friend Josh's house. And when I was at Josh's house, I got a call from my aunt. And she's like, "Hey, listen, the police called. They said you skipped school. They want to talk to you. They need to make sure you're all right. It's a well-being check, and that you're coming in voluntarily." I knew what it was, but at that time I didn't know it. Like I kind of did and kind of didn't. So I went to the police station, and they ended up booking me. I ended up finding out that my co-defendant had a warrant, and he ran. He was running, and he eventually turned himself in, and he gave him all the info. You know what I mean? He told, and the thing is that he told everybody else that I told. But I have, I don't know if anybody knows, but you can get a discovery packet. That's how it is in Pennsylvania, at least. And you can get all the information: who wrote statements, who did what. It's all the court, everything from the court case, and that's what I got. And I've got the proof that, you know what I mean. This person he wrote a statement. His sister wrote a statement, and they had some random dude write a statement because his sister used to be good looking, and so she, you know what I mean. She probably just finessed this fat dude into thinking she was gonna like sleep with him or something if he wrote a statement. So, long story short, it ended up being that they said I was the mastermind of this arson. I wasn't telling. Even if he told on me, that's not like that's just not how I get down. That's not how I get down. I don't feel comfortable with that. So, I just said whatever. It was me. You know what I mean? We went to court, and I realized because I had went involuntarily, I was supposed to have been able to leave. And I said I wanted to leave like 5 times. I asked to talk to my attorney. I did multiple things, and all of my rights had been violated. So when I wrote the statement saying, "Listen, I did everything," they had violated my rights. So they shredded it, and it was tossed. So I said I wanted to take it to trial, and luckily for me, they ended up getting security footage that showed what really happened. I ended up taking a plea like a week before trial. Uh, all I had to do was say that I said it, and you know what I mean. I pled guilty to a reckless endangerment felony 2 and a criminal mischief. And you know what I mean. Like I was always like, "Oh, I'm not taking a plea. I'm not taking a plea." But you know what I mean. This was like the best chance I had. I had 4 pages of felonies. Attempt to cause catastrophe, crazy shit. And it was all because I wanted to be cool. I wanted to fit in, and I looked stupid as hell. And I was like, whatever. You know what I mean. I got booked for like 12 days, and they can only hold you for 14 without charges. They were investigating us, so I got out, and I stole a car, and the girl that turned me in, actually, I stole a car and went to see her, and she called the cops on me then and got me arrested. I got surrounded at the gas station and they took me. Uh, and so from then until like 16, it was in and out of placement, in and out of placement, in and out of placement. I was in everywhere. And, I came home finally when I was, yeah, like I said, like 16. And I I started hanging around negative people again, you know what I mean? But this time it was older people. And I ended up getting into, shooting up and doing drugs, like a lot more of the hardcore drugs. And by the time I was 18, I developed a heavy heroin addiction, and I had a cocaine addiction as well. Um, things had gotten really out of hand. I was robbing everybody I knew. I took money from everybody in the whole town. I robbed everybody. I stole money and debit and credit cards from my family, friends. You know what I mean? It didn't matter to me who you were. Like to get my fix, I was robbing somebody if I had to. You know what I mean? I jumped in cars because I had people chasing me. I just did whatever so that I could. I was just selfish, and you know what I mean. I I kept doing that. I kept going down that path, and eventually, I got into even more bad shit, and I just kept going downhill, and I started stealing cars more often, and I was just stealing a car every night, and eventually, I was driving. I was going to get dope, and I had my dope boy's girlfriend driving the car because she had a license, and the light was green. We were going through the intersection, and this dude was drunk, and he thought that the light was yellow, so he tried to speed through. And as soon as we went through the light, he T-boned me. I was sitting shotgun, and that's exactly where he hit. The SUV came through the door and knocked me out. It broke like two of my ribs. It destroyed my whole back. It was so I totaled the car, and you know what I mean. I knew the car hadn't been reported as stolen yet. I mean, it's like 3 in the morning. Nobody was up. Nobody knew. Um, so when the police came, I just played it off. They didn't ask for any paperwork, nothing. They asked what happened. The dude left. He ran and came back, so they were more worried about him. So you know what I mean? Like we left. Um, I went and did my thing. A week later, I'm at my aunt's house. You know what I mean? I was dope sick. I'm sitting there. I don't got no shirt on, no socks on. I'm sitting there in my pajama pants, and I see the flashlights on the window, and I knew what it was. I heard the pounding on the door, and my aunt went and opened the door, and next thing you know, two state troopers came in and asked if I was Matthew, obviously, and I actually told them I wasn't, but they knew it was, or that I was. So they told me to stand up, and they detained me. Um, and actually, they ended up. I thought they were dicks at first, but they ended up being really nice guys. They're pretty much about the age I am now, and they really were a lot more respectful than most cops I've dealt with. You know what I mean? So after that, I ended up doing the rest of my juvenile life basically in placement. Well, in Pennsylvania, juvenile life's till 21, but I got out at the age of 19 finally after I was in placement the whole time from pretty much 12 to 19, off and on. But I would only ever be home for like a month to 6 months at most. Most of the time was in placement. Um, I never did school. I never did anything like that. Uh, and eventually, I had to get my GED because I went to rehab, and they had school there, and they looked at my record, and I had 0 credits. And you know what I mean? They told me that, and I was a senior then. That was when I was a senior, so I would have had to restart, and I would have had to be a freshman again. And I was like, well, just forget that. I'm not doing this. So, you know what I mean, I took my GED. Thank the Lord, I passed, and I got into trouble when I was locked up, and so I kept getting FTA'd. FTA, that's failure to adjust for people who don't know, and that means you get shipped off to another placement. Well, finally, I'd been to every placement that they could send you to in Pennsylvania, except for the boot camp, and that's called Abraxas LDP, and that's in South Mountain. And I went up there, and I had been there for like 3 days, and they have to do a physical when you get there. Well, they had me on Vyvanse, the highest 70 milligrams, the highest dose you can get. They gave me that for ADHD. It ended up being that I only had ADD, and so the cocaine and the Vyvanse had made it so that my heart had grew, and so my heart was enlarged. Once they found that out, uh, I had a van come pick me up from boot camp ASAP, and they brought me back to because that was at the PA Maryland line. South Mountain is. They brought me right back to Erie, and it was like a 9-hour drive. And the next day I got released, and basically everybody thought I was gonna die. The judge was sure that I was in a relapse. The DA, everybody was. They were pretty much betting against me. It was sink or swim, and they said I was sinking. They had literally said that I was going to sink, and I that kind of pushed me to strive, to be better. So, I got out of placement, and a lot of things had changed. All of my friends had passed away. Literally every one of them had overdosed, and a lot of them I didn't hear about because my family didn't want to tell me because they upset me. When I was in there, I had a girlfriend pass away. I wrote her letters for months and months and months, and I never got a reply, and I thought she hated me. And then finally, my brother, he told me what happened, you know what I mean, and it like ruined me. And you know what I mean, I was locked up. There was nothing I could do. Um, So I kind of like held on to that for a long time. That everybody I loved had passed, and so that brought me down a lot. When I came home, um, I had a slip. I've been off of heroin since April 23rd, 2015. But when it comes to cocaine, I did have a slip and I made a mistake. You know what I mean? When I came home and I did something very dumb. You know what I mean? I can openly admit that. Um, but that was the only time. You know what I mean? I just couldn't do it. It was when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Go Philly. Um, but you know what I mean? I was just stupid. I was partying. I was drinking. I did something dumb, and you know what I mean. That was it. Actually, no, that I'm incorrect. I'm sorry about that. The Eagles won the Super Bowl the following year. Um, but I came home. I lived with my aunt. I moved back and forth to a lot of different places. And then after my girlfriend had died when I was in placement, I said I wasn't going to date anybody. But you know what I mean. I came home, and I don't know about any guys here, but when you come home, you know what you're trying to get when you come home after doing a 2-year bid. Um, I ended up linking with this girl, and just long story short, all she did was cheat and take advantage of me. Every relationship I've been in with a woman, there was always some perk for them, whether it be drugs, money, sex, anything. You know what I mean? I hate it. I hate to say it, but like I was just being used by these girls, and I didn't mind because I was getting what I wanted from it. You know what I mean? I was getting laid, and I thought I was the top coolest dude. You know what I mean? I wasn't in school anymore, anything. You know what I mean? I'd been acting out like this since I was like 12. You know what I mean? I lost my virginity when I was 12 to an 18-year-old, and I thought I was the man. And I look back on it now, and it's disgusting. It's like, why would you sleep with a 12-year-old? You know what I mean? I still think I was cool as hell when I did it, but now I'm, you know what I mean? Like, 12-year-old me is like, hell yeah, but 21-year-old me is like, damn, that's kind of fucked up. Um, you know, I dated plenty more girls who all took advantage of me. They used me for everything I had, and finally, the last girl I was with, she cheated on me, and I was like, I'm done. I'm never talking to a woman again. And I always had a crush on this girl. I always saw her walking around town. I always saw her when I was going to my friend Josh's house. I swear I saw her every day. And I was in love with her. And after I broke up with my last ex, I was on Facebook scrolling. I was actually going to delete it. And my suggestions popped up. And there was a picture of her. And I added her, and I messaged her, and we hit it off, and I've been with this beauty ever since. Um, she really put me on track. I've made a lot of mistakes. You know what I mean? I've done a lot of dumb things in this relationship. I've never cheated. I'll be honest there. I never have done that, but I've done a lot of other dumb things that are pretty much equally as bad because of dishonesty, um, being inconsistent, not being responsible and accountable for my decisions and actions. You know what I mean? Um, I did drugs and it was a bad choice, and it affected everything. You know what I mean? I lost all my trust, and I really now I'm just trying to build it back up. I'm trying to be the man that I want to be, and that's what I hope to get from this, as well as I hope that I can build myself up as well as build others up. You know what I mean? I know that this story was kind of rambling. I kind of went all over the place, but you know what I mean. I just kind of gave it to you as it happened, and you know what I mean, as it popped into my head. Um, but I really hope that someone watches this and can get that motivation they need or that information they need. You know, if there's ever anything that anybody wants to talk about at all, really, like I said, just comment it. Um, I'm gonna put my Facebook link in the description. Message me anything. You know what I mean. I'm here for anybody at any time. I just I hope that someone can take something from this, because I truly believe that, especially with the drug epidemic affecting our youth so much, I think that there needs to be more people our age that are trying to help other people our age, because when I went to rehab, I never wanted to listen to some old timer. I mean, if I saw someone my age, I would listen because I knew I could relate. So I'm hoping that that's what I can kind of get from this is just relatable topics. And I'm gonna kind of try and think of a name for the page. Um, all these pages have the name or have the word relatable in there, so I'm trying to find something different. If you have any suggestions, you can comment that as well. But so I wanted to share that with you guys, get everything off the table, and you know what I mean. I'm hoping that if someone or if you are going through something like any of those situations, you know what I mean. I've been through, I have mental illnesses. I have been through drug abuse. I've been through mental, emotional, sexual abuse. You know what I mean. I've dealt with all of it, and I've coped with it. I have PTSD, but I cope. You know what I mean? And I want to help somebody else do that. And I want to be able to be there for you guys and be able to support you guys through your walk of life. You know what I mean? And it may not be the best advice ever, and you know what I mean. It could be the worst sometimes, but you know what I mean. It is how you take it, and I just want to help. That's all I want to do with you guys. So I hope that you guys can take something from this. I'm sorry that it took so long. I was kind of babbling on for a minute there, but I appreciate everybody's time, taking your time to watch this. Like, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll be dropping another vlog tomorrow. See you later.